Hello, Disney. You're gonna have to redo your film again.
What happened with the actor strike? Did they settle that? Is that over?
Yeah, they settled it.
Today, we're going to talk about Rachel Zegler,
Oh, God.
who got backlash. She's supposed to be the next Snow White. She got backlash, which could ruin Disney's show remake, Snow White.
Every time we check in on Disney's upcoming Snow White remake, somehow things get even worse.
You know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. So we didn't do that this time.
Well, you can't even go to Disneyland anymore.
I've become very concerned.
Welcome back to Tea Time with Tina. Today we're going to take a close look at Joe Rogan and what was supposed to be a shining moment for Rachel Zegler, Disney's next big star. Yet here we are, watching her career take a nosedive, all thanks to the chaos surrounding her role in Snow White. Disney's decision to drop her from high-profile roles, potentially costing her millions, may seem harsh, but in the wake of her controversial remarks, it's almost hard to blame them. But what exactly went wrong? Why did the studio decide to sever ties with her when they had so much invested in her? The roots of this fallout go far deeper than just one bad comment. Zegler's unapologetic, bold statements have made her one of the most divisive figures in Hollywood today. The moment Disney released the first teaser for Snow White, things started spiraling. What should have been a celebratory moment instead became a PR disaster. But it wasn't just about the movie or its casting, it was Zegler's comments that turned the heat up. What could have been the start of a new era for Disney turned into an unexpected PR nightmare. And the consequences? Well, they've been far more severe than anyone could have predicted. From losing over $1 million to facing the full fury of social media backlash, Zegler is now at the center of one of the most public controversies in Hollywood. It all started with a teaser, one that Disney probably wishes had never seen the light of day. When the live-action Snow White trailer dropped in August 2024, it was supposed to be a milestone, a chance for Disney to showcase their bold new vision. But what was meant to excite audiences only ignited a firestorm. Within days, the teaser accumulated nearly 1 million dislikes on YouTube, making it the most disliked movie trailer in the platform's history. This wasn't just a small group of disappointed fans, this was a full-blown backlash. Disney's attempt to modernize the beloved fairy tale took a hard turn, leaving a growing sea of critics. The trailer wasn't the problem by itself. It was a culmination of choices that left fans questioning everything Disney stood for. The most notable of these decisions, the controversial casting of the 7 dwarves. In an attempt to embrace diversity, Disney replaced the iconic dwarves with magical creatures, a choice meant to push the needle forward in terms of inclusivity. But it backfired horribly. Instead of celebrating diversity, this move angered actors with dwarfism who felt they were being sidelined in favor of a political agenda. Fans weren't just upset, they were furious, and they made sure their voices were heard loud and clear. Disney's handling of this backlash has been anything but graceful, and the company's efforts to move forward have felt like nothing more than a desperate scramble to undo the damage. What started as a hopeful project for Disney has now become one of the most controversial and ridiculed moments in the company's recent history. As the Snow White drama unfolded, the focus quickly shifted to the star at its center, Rachel Zegler. Initially, the casting of Zegler seemed like a bold, fresh choice. Fans hoped she would bring new life to the iconic character, especially as Disney attempted to revitalize the classic. But that hope didn't last long. In a now infamous interview, Zegler took aim at the original Snow White, calling the film extremely dated and dismissing its romance as creepy and weird. These comments were enough to make longtime fans feel like they had been betrayed. To them, the original Snow White was more than just a film, it was a cherished piece of childhood. And here was Zegler, not just critiquing it, but doing so in a tone that came off as dismissive, almost as if she were undermining their beloved memories. But Zegler didn't stop there. In a 2022 interview, she revealed that as a child, she had avoided watching Snow White because it scared her. She even doubled down on her criticism, claiming that the remake would completely redefine what it means to be fairest of them all, shifting the focus away from traditional beauty standards. For some, this was a modern twist, a brave new take on an old story. But for others, it felt like a direct attack on a tale that had stood the test of of time. The backlash wasn't just about what Zegler said, it was about how she said it. Her words seemed to alienate the very audience she needed to win over. Disney, instead of stepping in to mediate the situation, essentially allowed Zegler's narrative to take center stage. This left many fans feeling like the company was turning its back on its legacy, prioritizing the new direction over the loyalty and feelings of the audience who had supported them for years. Zegler's outspoken attitude wasn't going unnoticed, and the fallout would only intensify as more comments and more controversies continued to surface. In fact, Zegler seemed to face a constant wave of criticism. Her comments about Snow White's legacy only made her a lightning rod for controversy, and as things went from bad to worse, the once promising Snow White remake seemed like it was in serious trouble. But was Zegler fully aware of the damage she was causing? It's unclear. What is clear, however, is that her words continued to drive a wedge between Disney and its audience, and with every new comment, she found herself at the heart of a PR nightmare. As if the public outrage over her comments about Snow White wasn't enough, Rachel Zegler managed to keep the fire burning with her unpredictable behavior on social media. Rather than staying quiet or attempting to smooth things over, she continued to stir the pot, pushing even more fans away. Zegler's political commentary became just as polarizing as her remarks about the Snow White remake. Her social media behavior wasn't just damaging her own image, it was adding to Disney's already mounting problems. With every controversial statement, Zegler seemed to drive a wedge deeper between herself and the audience, and Disney, by association, found itself caught in the crossfire. The question now was whether Zegler's growing list of public missteps would push Disney to make a difficult decision, cut ties with her, or risk further alienating their fan base. Zegler's response to the mounting backlash? She cast herself as a victim of relentless online harassment, claiming that public scrutiny was an inevitable part of fame. While there's some truth to that, it's hard to ignore the fact that her own actions were what fueled the controversy in the first place. Instead of calming tensions, Zegler seemed determined to keep the drama alive, which only made the situation worse for both her and Disney. Every time the dust seemed to settle, Zegler found herself back in the headlines, dragging the Snow White remake deeper into chaos. Fans, who had once been excited about the project, were now disillusioned and frustrated. Some began to question how long Disney would continue to support Zegler, especially as she became more of a liability than an asset. As Rachel Zegler's controversies continued to spiral, Disney found itself trapped in a never-ending cycle of missteps that only seemed to worsen with time. The company's attempts to salvage the Snow White remake became increasingly desperate and disjointed, leading many to question if the film could ever recover from its tarnished reputation. Disney spent $29 million and countless rewrites, but the negative reaction to the trailer wasn't just about the general public's dislike, it pointed to deeper issues with the film's creative decisions. Disney's attempt at inclusivity and diversity had backfired in ways they likely hadn't anticipated. The decision to replace the beloved Seven Dwarfs with diverse magical creatures, while intended as a progressive move, was perceived by many as a hollow gesture. It left a group of already marginalized actors with dwarfism feeling sidelined rather than celebrated. This backlash wasn't just about the creative changes, it was about the way Disney handled the situation. Instead of celebrating diversity, the studio was accused of pandering to political correctness, alienating audiences who felt that Disney was compromising the integrity of the original story for the sake of a trendy narrative. In addition to the backlash against the casting, critics and fans alike began to voice their displeasure with how Disney had approached the film's central themes. Instead of paying homage to the legacy of Snow White, Disney seemed to be reimagining the story with little regard for what made the original so beloved. The film's focus on shifting beauty standards rather than honoring the classic notions of fairest of them all left many fans wondering if the film's creators truly understood the story they were trying to retell. Instead of building on the foundation of the original, it seemed as if Disney was tearing it down in favor of a more politically correct version. And the more they pushed these changes, the more they alienated the very audience they relied on. This was not the only problem Disney faced. Leaked set photos from 2022 had already given fans a sneak peek of the reimagined Seven Dwarfs. The characters, rather than being portrayed by actors with dwarfism, were being played by a diverse group of performers with varying body types and heights. Although Disney claimed they consulted with the dwarfism community to avoid stereotypes, the damage was done. The backlash was swift and unrelenting, and Disney was left scrambling to handle the fallout. Even former Imagineers began suggesting that that Disney should reconsider releasing the film in theaters altogether. Some proposed that the studio release Snow White directly on Disney Plus to avoid a potential box office disaster. It was a shocking suggestion, but one that seemed increasingly realistic given the growing animosity surrounding the film. Joe Rogan even weighed in on the situation, bluntly stating that Disney might be better off releasing the film on streaming, where it could escape the harsh spotlight of a theatrical release. With every new controversy, it seemed like a box office release was becoming an increasingly risky gamble. As the situation escalated, it was clear that Disney was in a tough spot. Their attempt at a live-action remake of Snow White had turned into a PR nightmare, and with every new revelation, the film's prospects seemed bleaker. Would Disney be able to recover from the endless controversies surrounding this remake? Could they salvage the film, or was it destined to become a cautionary tale about how not to handle a beloved classic? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain: Snow White's journey from a cherished fairy tale to a PR disaster was far from over. As the Snow White remake continued to spiral into controversy, the divide between Disney, Rachel Zegler, and the fans became even more apparent. With every misstep, Disney's once loyal audience grew more frustrated and alienated, while Zegler's image became increasingly polarizing. The backlash against the film was no longer just about the casting or creative choices. It was now about the relationship between Disney and its audience, and the company's willingness to defend Zegler's controversial statement. What do you think? Can Disney turn this ship around, or is Snow White already a lost cause? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this unfolding drama. Stay tuned, stay safe, and stay informed only on Tea Time with Tina.